I don't think anything's changed on my end for the top six we've had for the last few weeks, mainly because some teams didn't play and
Yeah.
there wasn't a big shakeup anywhere in the higher rankings. So I think we're going to probably stick with Notre Dame number 1, Alabama number 2,
Agreed.
number 3 would be Clemson, number
Hmm.
4 is Ohio State. They didn't get to play the game against Michigan. I'm going to keep them at number 4 for now. We can talk about that in a bit. Number 5, I think we still had Texas A&M, and number 6 was Cincinnati. Are you changing any of those?
No, no. It was interesting that Iowa State has moved up in the
Yeah.
actual playoff,
We need to
but
talk about all of that. What the college football playoff committee came up with is increasingly so biased to the Power 5 conferences,
yeah,
giving, well, especially, well, we'll get into it, but Iowa State was egregious. I mean, they have 2 losses, don't they? Or do they just have the one?
who
Iowa
would you
State.
say? Yeah, they have 2 losses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, they've got 2 losses. And you know, I mean, let's jump into so Florida loses to LSU,
well, that
okay,
was the
by
next
a
one I was going
field
to
goal,
bring up. They've got 2 losses
and
now,
they've got
and
2 losses, and they're sitting at 7,
they
which
moved.
does not
They lost to LSU and moved down 1 slot from 6
right,
to 7.
which is here's my problem with that.
Yeah,
Alabama pasted LSU.
right.
They wiped the
Well,
floor with LSU.
and LSU has been terrible all year. This is, I mean, it's
Right.
not like that was a a respectable loss in any way. It's
No,
not.
it wasn't. And I don't understand how you fall one spot and could could
Mm.
maybe with beating if somehow, which they're not going to. I can tell you.
A
You
lot of things
might
have to happen for Florida to be able to still
right.
make the playoff.
You need Northwestern to lose. You need Texas A&M to lose, and they have to beat Alabama. Ain't gonna
Right.
happen.
Yeah.
But like you're 100% correct. The bias towards the power conferences is almost too much at this point in time.
Yeah. I mean, you see it every year with the SEC, so I could sort of understand that. Although in this case, it makes no sense just because LSU is having such a shit year. You cannot give Florida credit for losing that game, a game they should not have lost. I can't wait to get into that. But the Iowa State side is giving credit to the Big 12 over
Yeah,
teams like Cincinnati, or
yeah.
Cincinnati's the ones that's getting ripped off. We've been their champion all year long, but they're kind of a victim to not playing much. Like I don't know how many weeks it's been since they played, but people are like forgetting they're even out there, and so the playoff committee keeps dropping them through no fault of their own. Yet they don't drop teams like Florida for fucking losing games they shouldn't be losing. So I don't know. None of it is really relevant or matters at all until next week when the real final rankings come out. All of this is just for conjecture and for assholes like us to talk about on stupid podcasts like this. So it's all kind of fodder, for nothing until next week. So it's fun to talk about, I guess. But this seems like the dumbest ranking I've seen in a long time, with just specifically Iowa State and Florida. But so I don't think. I'm wondering. Well, I mean, we'll have our final LDP rankings next week after everything plays out with the
Yeah.
championship games and everything else. So that I'm assuming is going to be fairly similar to. Well, we'll see. I mean, we might have a lot to bitch about if Florida does, and somehow everything falls into place for them to actually make the playoff. There would be a lot of people talking about that. That would be interesting. But like you said, they're not beating Alabama. I mean, that's the first thing that needs to happen. And they need a lot of luck after that. They're just not going to beat Alabama. So
No.
the best thing about that loss, I don't know if you watched Florida and LSU on
I did
Saturday night.
not. I did
It
not.
turned into a fog bowl. That was crazy. Actually, it was hard to see. They had to have like the overhead, like behind the quarterback. camera that's kind of like the video game angle. They had to use that most of the game because you couldn't see the field from the typical above the stadium shot. So, but the best part of that game was, I'm sure everyone's heard about it now, the famous Marco Wilson throwing a shoe to get a personal foul. You didn't see this?
No.
Oh my God, this is all over the place. This is going to be my shit you couldn't make up. It was a back and forth game, which it should not have been, but Florida was kind of pulling away and had stopped LSU on what should have been their final drive. They had stopped them on third and I don't know, it was like a 3rd and 12 play or something, and they stopped them short, and they were gonna have to punt. And it was looking bleak for LSU, but I think he's a defensive back. Marco Wilson saw that the runner's shoe had fallen off, and in celebration for stopping them short of the first down, he picked up the shoe and threw it down the field. And of course, the ref saw it and gave him an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, giving them a first down, which led them to kick a 58-yard field goal that ended up winning them the game because Marco Wilson threw a shoe. So you could see memes all over the internet, like Austin Powers, who throws a shoe? Like, really, who throws a shoe? So I couldn't believe it. Like, it's the most boneheaded play ever. The game was over pretty much if he hadn't thrown the shoe. And the referee even had the referee's call of it was even priceless. He's like, unsportsmanlike conduct on Florida. The guy threw a shoe 20 yards down the field. Like, he even said 20 yards in his description of the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which I thought was fucking hilarious. So yeah, that's literally shit you couldn't make up. So
idiots.
We wouldn't even, they would have a much more legit reason to be considered a top 10 team if they hadn't lost that game and lost that game in hilarious fashion. But somehow it doesn't matter if you do throw a shoe because you're still going to be ranked number 7. You had some comments about Ohio State before we got on the air here. Ohio State and possibly Dabo Swinney stirring the pot.
Dabo or Dabo? Is it
Dabo?
Dabo, potato. Yeah, so it started earlier in the week where he was questioning how the college playoff committee could even entertain putting Ohio State in the playoffs, which is as few games as they've played. That it's not fair to the other teams that have played a full schedule. And to a degree...
full schedule meaning he played 10 games?
A minimum of 10 games, which is pretty much what everyone's played. So.
Yeah, but who came up with that minimum? I mean, this is all made up. So, like him saying that he's playing a full schedule, well, 10 games is not a full schedule. Ohio State played all the games they could.
Yeah, it's been out of, most of it's been, it's all been out of Ohio State's control. So, part of me sees his point of view. I mean, they've won 5 games. They're going to probably win 6. And they've only had to play a questionable football conference all season. So, but again, this is a different year. And they look like a quality team to me. So I don't have a problem with them making the college playoff, but it's interesting that, he's a coach. It's a coach's poll too, so he's obviously not putting Ohio State there. He thinks, obviously he's going to talk about his conference and teams that have 1, 2 losses that deserve to be there more because they play more games. So, I see it. But I also don't think that Ohio State, again, it wasn't like they said at the beginning of the year, well, we're only going to play 6 games. That's not, that's out of their control. So,
well, he's obviously politicking in case Clemson loses, and he's trying to eliminate any competition that could possibly eliminate him from the playoff. But I feel like,
if Clemson loses, they're out of the playoff.
Yeah, I mean. So I mean that's all he's doing. He's just using anything he can to politic for his boys, but I don't think it's going to work. And it
I mean, they would have. I mean, why? How could you essentially put them in the playoff to almost could possibly play the same freaking game again the following week or whatever.
Well, that would be where the playoff committee could kind of finagle things and make, so they're not 2-3. They can make them 2-4, so they have different opponents or whatever. But
I mean, if Notre Dame beats Clemson twice, I think there's a legitimate argument for Notre Dame to be the number one team in the country.
we've been arguing it all year, so
I know,
yeah.
but like in the playoff committee, I mean, they would have beat them as number one and as number three.
Right.
Like, how are you not the number one team in the country? And they're 10.5-point dogs in this game.
They in the committee could say that would be their reasoning for moving them up, but the real reasoning was just so we don't get a three-peat of that matchup in the first round, or at least semifinal.
I mean, definitely if they beat them, I don't think we have to worry about that.
Right.
I think what happens is, my guess is Ohio State moves up to the third spot, and Texas A&M, barring any catastrophes, moves up to the number 4 spot.
Well, hell, I mean, if Florida plays them close and loses to Alabama, they'll probably just move them to number 4. They fucking love the SEC, so why not?
Yeah, maybe. It's gonna be it's the scenarios. I mean, are interesting. I mean, what happens if? Both Clemson kind of has an advantage just because they're going to change up what they did because they lost the game, right? And it goes back to that whole theory that a losing team in a second matchup kind of has an advantage, and the advantage is that they're more likely to change their game plan more than Notre Dame would be, right? So Notre Dame may be more predictable in the game, Clemson less predictable, but Clemson also has their starting number 1 pick quarterback back for this game, so that's
a big difference. Yeah.
So somehow that makes suddenly Notre Dame 10.5-point underdogs, even though they already beat them.
10.5. Wow, that's 10.5. A big line.
And I don't want to spoil the end of the show, but we could do it right now. I mean,
go ahead.
Take freaking Notre Dame in the points, guys.
Yeah,
they're not gonna lose by a touchdown and a field goal.
Where is that game?
It's a neutral site. It's
probably like the Georgia Dome or Mercedes.
No, I think it's actually in an outdoor state. I forgot. I said it a few weeks ago. I can't think of it right now.
Charlotte?
But
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to ACC much.
But there was some this conversation. Sweeney had brought this up days ago, and then this conversation came back up yesterday because there was some back and forth that the ACC canceled games of Notre Dame and Clemson this week to protect the matchup and protect them. And he responded back, if the ACC was really trying to protect Clemson and Notre Dame, why would we even play the game this week? Which I thought was a funny freaking response, because you do risk like having less presence in the college football playoffs.
You risk the millions of dollars of their
television revenue,
game. Right? I mean, that's just a stupid remark on his part.
I thought it was kind of funny. I don't like
Dabo.
His freaking nickname's Dabo.
Dabo the clown.
Yeah. So, but I thought that was like some interesting stuff going on this week. But if you are looking for PV's upset special this week, I mean, Notre Dame and the points is easy money.